Mission successful. 140 Indians are evacuated by the Indian Air Force from Afghanistan. Among those evacuated are Indian envoy and all the embassy staff. There are garlands and cheers as the Indians arrive home. Prime Minister chairs a meeting of Cabinet Committee on Security after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. Sources say Prime Minister directs officials to ensure safe evacuation of Indians. Supreme Court issues notice to center in the Pegasus hacking case. Government says if it says that Pegasus was not used, even that can be used by terror elements to modify their attack. Petitioners say they want government to answer yes or no. Mumbai's nightlife is back. Restaurants now open till 10 p.m. Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Rohit Wellington. Let's begin with our top story. The escape from Taliban's Kabul. How India accomplished the mission to bring back 140 Indians, including Indian envoy to Afghanistan and all the embassy staff. It was a fraught but precise operation. There has been hugs, cheers and garlands back home. But what was it getting out of Kabul? Here's the inside story of how the Indian embassy staff made it to the Kabul airport. Well, the Indian Air Force was able to evacuate approximately 140 members of the Indian Embassy, their security personnel and stranded journalists from Kabul this morning. Now, there were cheers and claps as the C-17 transport took off. It was a complicated process. Now, NDTV has learned that Taliban soldiers actually escorted the Indian contingent from the embassy to the airport and then onto this aircraft. In a tweet, the Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar said, movement of the Indian ambassador and the embassy staff from Kabul to India was a difficult and complicated exercise. Thank all those who cooperated and made and facilitated to make this possible. Back home in India, there was an overwhelming sense of relief. The jet landed first in Jamnagar, as you can see. Ambassador Rudrendra Tandon thanking the Indian Air Force. But getting out of Kabul was a nightmare. It all began a couple of days back. 2 Indian Air Force C-17 transports flew on that day for the evacuation mission to Kabul International Airport that you see. The security situation overnight between the 15th of August and the 16th of August deteriorated sharply. No evacuations were then possible. The Indian embassy was under observation by the Taliban. The high security green zone, which houses lots of embassies, had been breached. Overnight between the 15th and the 16th, Taliban soldiers raided what you see here, the Shahid Visa Agency, which processes visas for Afghans looking to travel to India. Now, the first batch of 45 Indian personnel who did evacuate yesterday. They were initially stopped by Taliban sentries en route to the airport. Personal belongings of a few Indian staff members were taken away by the Taliban thugs as they proceeded to the airport. The first Indian Air Force C-17 transport, which departed yesterday, took off in these very challenging circumstances. You can look at people on the ground at Kabul airport, but the remaining members of the Indian staff and contingent were unable, since the route, as you can see over there, was completely closed. These satellite images indicate that mobs were present. There were many cars. There was an overnight conversation between the US Secretary of State and the Indian Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar. That is likely to have helped movement of the remaining Indian personnel to the airport today, but they were accompanied by the Taliban.
Embassy के जितनी team है, we have different wings, MEA and other different civilian wings as well and forces as well. सबने एक साथ मिलके as a family काम किया काफी अच्छे से under the leadership of our ambassador and ECM and other officers. And finally हम every last person को लेके आए हैं यहाँ तक बहुत अच्छे से. बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. We are very thankful to Air Force, to Government of India very thankful.
Was there any kind of fear as far as the situation prevailing?
She was not getting any type of fear in her mind. She said, "Ki Mama, please don't get fear and don't panic me also. I'll come." It is 100%. Everybody was so worried. My phone is full of with the messages when she is coming, when she is coming.
And then you finally got to know that the flight has taken off today.
Yeah.
How was the feeling like?
So overwhelmed.
Now, what about those Indians who are still stuck in Afghanistan? A group of Sikhs have taken shelter at a Kabul Gurdwara and appealed for evacuation. In Uttar Pradesh, the parents of a 28-year-old welder working with a private firm in Kabul have appealed to the central government for the swift evacuation of their son and other Indians stranded in Afghanistan.
An SOS from Indians stranded in Kabul as the Taliban took over Afghanistan. Over 250 Sikhs living in Kabul have taken refuge at the city Gurudwara for the last 4 days and released this video asking for help.
ਤੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਾਜ਼ੁਕ ਹਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਏ ਵੀ ਸਨ ਉਹਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਵਾਸੀ ਵੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਹਾਜ਼ਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਡਿੱਗ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨਿਕਲਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ
After this Twitter appeal by the Punjab Chief Minister, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar responded, saying the government is treating the matter as priority. In this eastern UP village, the parents of a 28-year-old man who worked as a welder at a private company in Kabul are worried and nervous. The man sent this video from his Kabul apartment 2 days ago, where he is stuck with other Indians who were doing similar jobs.
सभी लोग परेशान हैं सभी लोग परेशान हैं
सही है लेकिन परेशानी है थोड़ा सा कोई निश्चित नहीं तालिबान क्या करेगा
क्या मांग करते हैं आप सरकार से?
हम सरकार से यही करेंगे मोदी साहब से कि वह मेरे बेटे को जितना जल्दी जल्दी मंगवाते हैं
उनसे तो बात रोज होती है जो कि अभी कुछ टाइम के बाद मालिक जो भाग गया है फिर उसके बाद कहता है कि देखिए अब पासपोर्ट भी दूसर कोई कंपनी के पास है।
आज अभी हमारे 100-150 लोग अफगानिस्तान में भी फंसे हुए हैं हमारी सरकार उस क्लास में लगी है उनको भी जल्द से जल्द छुड़ाकर हम भारत ले आवे।
Those stranded in Afghanistan will hope this is done soonest. With Mohammad Ghazali and Santosh, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Prime Minister Modi chaired a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security this evening to assess the situation in the war-torn Afghanistan. The meeting was attended by Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Sources said that the Prime Minister asked the officials to undertake all necessary measures to ensure safe evacuation of Indian nationals from Afghanistan in the coming days. According to sources, the Prime Minister said that India must not only protect our citizens, but we must also provide refuge to those Sikh and Hindu minorities who want to come to India, and we must also provide all possible help to our Afghan brothers and sisters who are looking towards India for assistance. The Taliban on Tuesday declared that no threat will be posed to any country from Afghanistan. Addressing a press conference, Taliban spokesperson said that the media will be allowed in Afghanistan and women can work in sectors where needed. Let's shift focus to COVID now. Maharashtra now has 76 cases of the Delta Plus variant. Nearly 12,000 samples have been sent for genome sequencing. Experts, meanwhile, are now saying that the patients with Delta Plus variant may be showing slightly different symptoms. Pooja Bhardwaj reports.
Maharashtra has so far sent the highest number of samples for genome sequencing after a Delta Plus variant scare. 11,968 samples have been studied. Of these samples sent between February and July this year, 85% of the cases have turned out to be driven by the Delta variant. Delta Plus variant cases have risen to 76 in the state. 10 among the 76 had taken both doses of the vaccine. 5 deaths have been reported amongst Delta Plus variant infections. Experts dealing with managing the pandemic in Mumbai say symptoms of the Delta Plus variant are slightly different from the common symptoms of COVID. They are immediately sending samples of patients who show these symptoms for genome sequencing.
जो थोड़ा अलग रूप में दिखते हैं डेल्टा प्लस में जो हम ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं उसमें एक है स्टमक एक एब्डोमिनल डिस्कम्फर्ट, दूसरा रैशेस आना बदन पे या फिर डिस्कलरेशन ऑफ टोज ये एक 2 से 3 सिम्टम जो है वो थोड़े अलग से हमें दिखे हैं और यही सिम्टम्स पे हम सस्पेक्ट करते हैं कि शायद पेशेंट को डेल्टा प्लस होगा। ट्रांसमिशन एक से दूसरे तक पहुंचने की जो गति है वो डेल्टा प्लस में ज्यादा है और एज कम्पेयर टू प्रीवियस डेल्टा एंड बीटा वर्जन इनमें पेशेंट थोड़ा ज्यादा सीरियस रहने का चांस है।
अलग डेल्टा सिम्टम का पेशेंट हमें दिखाई देता है तो उनका सैंपल निकाल के NIV भेजना म्युनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन थ्रू वो भी हम करेंगे और उसका स्ट्रेन जब डिटेक्ट हो जाएगा तो उनको अच्छी तरह आइसोलेट करके उनका अलग से हम ट्रीटमेंट कर सकते हैं।
While currently there are 0 containment zones in Mumbai, the number of infections are decreasing. The number of symptomatic patients in active cases are up from 15 to 20% earlier to more than 50%. And that is a worry. Currently there are 2,835 active COVID patients in Mumbai city, out of which 850 are asymptomatic patients and 1,529 are symptomatic, which works out to 54% symptomatic patients. Earlier, 70 to 75% of COVID cases were asymptomatic patients. The number of serious patients in the city stands at 455 currently. Relaxations in Mumbai and Maharashtra are being gradually announced as the number of cases have fallen, but if cases attributed to the Delta Plus variant continue to rise, another lockdown hasn't been ruled out. The healthcare system has also been asked to remain alert. In Mumbai with Pooja Bhardwaj, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
As they rolled up shutters for the first time in 4 months, malls and restaurants in Mumbai welcomed a trickle of customers. Ever since their closure in April, restaurants in Mumbai are now allowed to operate for extended hours. Owners are hoping that business would gain pace in the coming days. Saurabh Gupta has more.
We are with Yash here, who runs the place. Yash, new protocols, in fact sanitizer, all of this is new, but since April you've been shut. Yes. For the dinner clientele, how bad has business been, and how much time do you think it'll take to bounce back?
Since we lost dinner operations, a restaurant like us, we lose 90% of our revenues because 10% only comes from delivery. So it's been a big blow, but it's been encouraging that we've been allowed to open for dinner, but we've not seen the back of the pandemic yet. So we can't say, but it'll take at least 3 to 4 years for us to come back.
3 to 4 years to come back, and the crowds are returning slowly to the restaurants though?
Today is just day 2, so it looks promising and encouraging, and I hope it continues, and we hope that we get better hours as well.
All right. You know, everything's changed though, I mean, there's sanitizers, tables kept at a, distance to sort of try and, keep that distance. You feel safe coming out to a restaurant? Do you think that perhaps we should now be getting on with life?
Yeah, I think so, and basically we look at whether the restaurant is taking proper care, precautions, and I think that's how we choose a location. But I think, yeah, all of us are like sick of just being at home, so this helps.
All right. What about you?
Yeah, I think so too, and for me it is important that the restaurants are not very crowded. They follow the rules, that is 50% capacity and all of that, so that gives us some comfort. But looking forward to coming out and socializing with friends is something that I really missed, and look forward to that.
Welcome back. With no new reports of violence in Shillong, the Meghalaya government has decided to ease the curfew in parts of the state capital from Wednesday morning and also lift internet ban by evening to give people some relief. NDTV's Ratndeep Chaudhary is in Shillong and filed this ground report.
We are coming to you from the heart of Shillong. This is Police Bazaar, the busiest place in Shillong. This is where you have all markets. This is where tourists used to roam about in the evening, but now you can see it is completely deserted. Only security personnel can be seen because there is a total curfew. Now in the past 24 hours there have been no further flare up in Shillong or in the adjoining area, which is a good news for Meghalaya, given the fact the type of stray violence that the city saw on Sunday, and after that there have been initiatives taken by the government to bring back peace. In fact, from tomorrow morning the government is going to relax the curfew at least for 10 hours. That's what the government plans. Also, the internet ban, which has been imposed in 4 districts of Meghalaya, is likely to be lifted tomorrow evening, and in the afternoon the peace committee, which has been formed by the state government, will meet with other stakeholders to find out how a lasting solution can be brought how peace can be maintained. Now what has triggered this is the fact that last week there was an IED blast in another busy marketplace, Laimukra, not very far from here, from Police Bazaar, and in connection to the investigation of that IED blast, police actually last week raided the house of a former top militant leader, Mr. Chesterfield. The police actually fired at him and killed him. Now police says that this they have done in self-defense because he has attacked them with a knife, but his family members have claimed that it is a case of a cold-blooded murder. And on Independence Day, when his funeral rally was taking place, people had come out in large numbers. They have condemned the police action, and a group of people actually pelted stones. A police vehicle was ransacked, and in fact 3 police weapons are still missing. So clearly there was a lapse of law and order.